Episode 27 of Raw and Unscripted. Today, Kim and I have one of my favorite topics to chat about, and that is I am. What follows next matters. And for me, this has been one of the most transformative things I've done. So I love chatting about it. Kim, how are you today?
I'm great, Kelly Ann. How are you?
I'm
You good?
great.
Amazing. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. And I mean, yesterday we got the rain that we all needed, whether
Yes,
people want it to rain or not, right? We needed it.
we did.
Good morning, Liz, who's tuning in. And everybody that, as you pop in, or if you catch this one back as a replay, please say hello. Let us know. We're always curious to know who's attending live with us and who is catching it back. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's to me, my narration, the way I speak to myself, whether I speak it out loud. And to me, if I'm really reflecting back and even looking at my life now, I feel like the most potent words, the ones that we have to be most aware of, are the ones that we speak to ourselves in silence, right? Because what we say out loud, I think down deep, I personally would never be like, I'm so stupid, I'm going to give up, because I know better than that, right? But we do it in our own heads, and it happens so quickly. And I think that's all part of, I'm sure we'll talk about that today, but that's that subconscious coming in and all that narrative from our past. But I 100% agree. We've talked about this so many times, and I'm going to say it again. We can't change what we're not acknowledging. And knowing what we know now about the mind and how the mind works and how our thoughts will create the trajectory of our life and what we want, we have to pay attention. So the I am is an important one, and we're going to go there today.
Exactly. You're so right, Kim. Like, I think that we often get caught up with the opinions that other people have of us,
Mhm.
and we worry about whether other people think of us. But the most important opinion that we have is the opinion we have of ourselves.
Mhm.
And that will come through in your self talk. As you said, Kim, the things that we usually don't speak them out loud to people
No.
because often we know somebody's going to contradict us. We know somebody's going to say that's not true, but we still speak them internally. It's still that voice in our head. And often the things that we say to ourselves, the things that follow I am, they're on repeat. They are on repeat in our mind, and we will say them numerous times a day. And Kim, as you said, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And becoming aware of the language that we use in speaking to ourselves, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to start to become aware because, and that's one of the challenges I think for the listeners this week, is to really start to pay attention. What are you saying to yourself at certain points of the day?
Mhm. I don't think we want to pay attention to what we want. It hurts. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of homework I give to a lot of my clients right at the beginning, that have been living a certain way for a long period of time, is to actually take an inventory, and not just like, oh, I speak bad about myself. No, like, what are you saying to yourself? And when they do that exercise and that activity, and when I've done it myself, like, we are so cruel to ourselves, where with the words that we speak to ourselves, we would never say to someone else. And we have to be able to take that time, because I'm just going to say it. I feel like we are coasting through our lives saying it's not so bad. It's just not that bad. But when you actually start to look and go, well, no wonder my life is the way it is. No wonder I'm not living a more happy, joyful, peaceful, abundant life. Look at how I'm speaking to myself. So you
Mhm.
really have to do that work. If you've never done it and you're not aware of what you're saying to yourself, start, like I always say, just bring a little notepad around with you. And when you made the comment about we say it to ourselves all day long, I'm just going to drop a little bit of facts in here. This is always, I just said this to a bunch of young adult female students yesterday at a high school, and they were so shocked. We speak anywhere, or when it comes to our thoughts, and of course, an I am statement is a thought. We have roughly 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day that we have, and approximately 80% of them are on repeat. And approximately 80% of those are negative, right? We get very comfortable saying the same things to ourselves, right? So, this is a huge first step.
Exactly.
Mm.
And I believe, and the research is beginning to show, that the single most important determining factor of your success is your self image,
Mhm.
is what you think about you, what you believe to be true about yourself. And when you start to get aware and begin to realize the things that you are saying about yourself, it's really a window into your self image. We might say to ourselves, yeah, I feel pretty good about myself, or I have a pretty positive self image. But when you start to take an inventory of the things that you say to yourself, those are truly the beliefs you hold about yourself. And
Mhm.
as you said, they are not fun to look at.
No, no, they're painful to be
They
honest with
are.
you, like, and they can bring up a lot of they bring up a lot of emotions, and, I often will say too, because what I think we all need to know is that we haven't done this to ourselves, this has often been done to us. And so, I often will say, "Well, when you say these words to yourself, can you think of someone from your past, a coach, a teacher, a parent, that has said these words, whether they've spoken them into you or you've internalized it somehow, right? There's often a voice of someone, a bully in grade school, right? There's someone there. And that brings up, like, this is all part of that healing journey. That brings up those memories. And so, but again, it's part of the process, right? Kellyanne, is to be able to allow ourselves to know what's been going on in us for so long. Where did this narration come from?
Mhm.
And as I always like to say, and I know you do too, we are adults now. So, yes, we may have had very challenging, painful, hard childhoods, but we're adults now. And we can take these steps forward to be able to heal, to change how we speak to ourselves, to change the words that follow those I am statements. That's what we need to do for ourselves, and we owe that to ourselves and to our future self.
Exactly. And that is so possible. Many of us think that it's not possible to change some of these beliefs that we have about ourselves. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do it, but it is so possible. And as you said, Kim, so many of these beliefs that we have about ourselves, I would venture to say almost every single one of them is because of something in our past, usually our early childhood.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean that, as you said, it could be something that somebody said to you, but it also could be your interpretation of what
Mhm.
happened. It could be, you think of yourself as a child. You didn't have the capacity to weed out things that weren't true. You were like a sponge, and your subconscious mind was wide open. So you accepted everything that came in there.
Mhm.
So if you one time heard your mom say, I'll just give an example, heard your mom say, yeah, you weren't really planned. We didn't really want another child.
Oh.
That comment can determine so much of what you believe about yourself. And it might have been and this isn't to blame your parents, it
Totally.
might have been a completely innocent comment. But some of those comments, some of those experiences that we've had, we take those, we internalize them, and then we begin to believe that they are true about ourselves. So that I am statement, if it's I am unworthy, I am unwanted,
Mhm.
that that one belief that became a part of you when you were a child, that has now become what you believe is a fact about yourself. And you have looked And I talk about this all the time. What you
Yeah.
look for, you will find. You have looked for the evidence to support that because that's what we do. We always want to act in alignment with our beliefs, and we always want to search for the evidence that what we think is true.
And I'm also going to add to that that we can look at a situation and interpret it to be what we think it is. It doesn't mean that it's like there was an example that Oprah Winfrey one time gave. I think it was with Brene Brown, but it's like you're walking through a room and somebody looks at you and they kind of roll their eyes. And so you now internal because you've got this belief system that no one likes me and they don't want me here and I don't belong here. But meanwhile, that person could have been rolling their eyes about something that's going on. Like it has nothing to do, but you're going to go out and look for it, as you said, to continue to make these beliefs stay strong. So again, it's like, what do we want to change about this, right? And I think that that's where I'd love to take this conversation now is like, where and how can we start to change? Because we know that the power of the mind is that it can be changed. And I want to go there with it because, and those of you that are here listening right now, we have so many people. I've just looked up to see, and we got lots of people here popping in right now. So please say hi in the chat. If you are feeling courageous and brave enough right now, what is an I am statement, a limiting belief that has an I am attached to it that you are saying to yourself on a regular basis that you feel is really impacting your ability to enjoy your life today, but also to be able to create and experience what you want in your life, right? Because this is what Ron Unscripted is all about, right? So I'm going to just take a moment and go, I am. What is my I am statements? Now, they're not super strong, Kellyanne, but they're there, and I won't, it's not phrased as an I am, but it's phrased as a I don't know enough, or I feel stale with my writing these days. My writing isn't landing for people. These are some of the narration. This is some of the narrative that I have in my head right now. So again, if I feel that way, do you think I'm going to be inspired to write? Not at all.
No, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I think, the one thing, and I caught myself saying it the other day, and my sister stopped me.
Oh, good.
I have always said, I am not a writer. That has been a belief of mine for as long as I can remember. And I challenge that belief by actually becoming a published author, which
Mhm.
um, still shocks me to this day. But the other day I said, my sister said something, and I said, well, I'm not a writer. And she said, don't say that. You are a published author
That's right.
and you are a writer. That is something but that's been on repeat in my mind. And that's what happens. You know, I think no matter what anybody tells us, right? No matter what anybody else says about us, no matter how they build us up, it doesn't matter. It's only what we say about ourselves that matters. And we all know, most of us, anybody who has any kind of interest in personal development or making growth, we all know that we need to improve our self image. We need to improve what we think about ourselves. We know that that can be a game changer, but nobody really ever tells us how to do it.
No,
We
no.
read the books, and I think the one thing that is so important to understand, and we've talked about this, that those voices, that voice in your head, that self talk, that I am talk, it has been on repeat for decades.
Mhm,
And that is how it has become ingrained.
mhm,
The only way we can't just eliminate those limiting beliefs, eliminate those I am statements that don't serve us, we have to actually replace them. And we have to replace them with um, more life giving statements about ourselves. But we can't just stop there. We can't just say it once and it's going to become a belief. We have to do exactly what we have done for the last however many years, and we have to put it on repeat. So that's the thing that takes some time, is to and I mean, maybe we can talk about some of the things that we can do
yeah.
to to make those changes. And I think the one thing that we've talked about, Kim, is that awareness, is
Mhm,
becoming aware. And you mentioned, and I love that, carrying a notepad with you where you write down that self talk, and becoming aware of it is going to be the first step in
mhm.
changing that.
Mhm. And I always think, and I think I've said this in an episode before too, but I always find it really powerful to also take that a step further and notice where you are, who you're with
Mm,
when those thoughts are coming up, because that is really valuable insight and
mhm,
information for you as well, to arm yourself, to protect yourself, to what's another word I'm looking for? To inspire yourself. Like, let's say I have a lot of negative self talk when I'm with a certain person,
mm,
right? And I know now, I'm not wanting to not have this person in my life. Okay. Because a lot of the time, that person might not be doing anything wrong. Like, I can speak about this from personal experience. So if that person's not doing anything quote unquote wrong, and you know that the work has to be done within you, then it just tells you that when I'm going to be with this person, I have to like amp up those I am statements. I have to do something to inspire myself. And sometimes, if you're feeling comfortable enough with this person, you might even want to share with this person that, this is something that you're working on. And thank you to those of you who've typed in. We've got some limiting beliefs in here, such as my voice doesn't matter, or I am not strong enough. And so when we start to look for that, we can then start to change. Now, I don't know where you want to go with this, all right? We want to talk about how to create some of these I am statements, what
yeah.
they look
I
like.
think,
I
I
would
mean,
love
I
that.
think that's, the other thing I just want to mention is I think that when we don't work at changing these, or when we don't have the understanding or the awareness that we are doing this
Mhm,
to ourselves,
mhm.
um, and Brene Brown talks about this all the time, we hustle for our worthiness.
Oh, yes, we do.
We look for it outside of ourselves.
Yep.
We look for it in the opinions of others. We might look for it in being an overachiever, a people pleaser, like all of the things. When we don't find it in ourselves, when we don't find that validation in ourselves and that worthiness in ourselves, we will always search for it somewhere else.
Mhm,
And I know that that has been my journey.
mhm.
And I think that is very normal. Nobody has a perfect self image. Nobody has perfect I am statements that they say to themselves. What we hope for is that we can have more positive than negative.
Totally, totally.
And I think it's a practice, as I talked about, what you look for, you will find. So when you start, and this is a challenge that I will give people, some of my clients, and I might have shared this before on here, but I challenge people to start to search for 3 things each day that they can compliment themselves on.
Mhm,
We are so quick to beat ourselves up. We
mhm.
are so quick to look for all the ways that we mess up, that we fail. We rarely look for the things that we can be proud of. So I challenge you for 30 days, just try it for 30 days and find 3 things that you can compliment yourself on. They don't have to be crazy things, they can be very simple things. It can be that, you know what? My alarm clock went off today and I got up when it went off.
That's a huge challenge for people.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
find find the evidence
Mhm.
to support the belief that you want to have about yourself. So if you want to change an I am statement, if you want it to be, and let's talk about affirmations,
Yes,
obviously. But
yes, of course.
if you want to have a statement that says, I am, um, I am committed. Okay. So let's choose a statement like that. I am committed. When I make a promise to myself, I follow through with it. So when you start to search for evidence of that, let's say one of the commitments you make to yourself is, I want to get up when the alarm clock goes off.
Mhm.
So then you start to search for evidence of that. And you compliment yourself on that. There is evidence that I am committed.
Mhm.
Look for that evidence.
Yeah, and that's how we also create that self-trust, right? It's this trusting this process.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So this is the thing, everyone. Like you can use I am statements for many things, even if there is a goal that you're working towards, something that you're wanting to stay motivated to do. A lot of the people that are in my circle and the women that I work with, they want to move their bodies more, right? They feel they're too sedentary and they want to feel healthier. So you can create statements that inspire that action, right? And then when you do go out for the walk, you celebrate yourself. I've said this so many times, but and kind of alluding to what you've already said, but adding on to it, that we are hard on ourselves. We don't accept compliments. We don't celebrate our successes. And we need to do more of that. Okay. Which is uncomfortable, especially for women. Like that's part of the things that I challenge women to do in my community. And it's been hard because they don't, it's like we've been taught like don't brag about yourself, stay humble, but look where it's got us. It's not positive, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think I've had people say to me, well, affirmations are just a bunch of crap. You can't just say something and all of a sudden you believe it. And that's true.
Mhm.
It's very true. You cannot, the negative beliefs about that you hold about yourself, they are crappy beliefs. They, you can't just pile positive affirmations on top of those and expect it to not stink, right? Like, I mean, you can't just, it has to be replacing things. You can't just throw all the affirmations on top and expect that all of a sudden now I'm going to see myself in a positive light. It takes time, it takes repetition. And one of the, you know, I let's just talk a little bit about what an affirmation is,
Yes.
because I think some people have different views of what it is, but an affirmation is just a positive statement about yourself that begins with I am. It's not a statement that, like, an affirmation would not be, I am trying to say more positive things about myself. That's not an affirming,
It's a
not a good affirmation, because
yeah.
these are not things you're trying to do. These are things that you speak about in the present tense. So
Yeah.
I am being kinder to myself. They don't have to be things, you don't have to say to yourself, I am confident.
Yeah.
If you're not there yet, if that's not the next step for you, don't use that affirmation, because you will know when you're lying to yourself.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
If you say I am a millionaire and you're, $100,000 in debt, that's not going to feel authentic to
No,
you. So
no.
choose statements that do feel authentic to you.
That's why I love saying I am learning to, I am
Yes.
willing to, I am open to, right? So
Exactly.
I'm going to just drop little tidbits here in terms of the subconscious mind. That's where we're addressing. We're addressing that subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real or imaginary. And so we are speaking it as if it's already happening or we're already living it. Like this is my life. This is what I'm believing. But again, there has to be an emotional connection to it, right? So we have to believe in what it is that we're saying. And the subconscious mind also likes things to be clear, specific, short, right? Something very, very easy. Not to mention, it's easier for us to say it, right? Because of course, we'll talk about that in a second. You want to speak them out. You want to say them. So think about that. There was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, here's one more little thing I would love you to think about when you're writing your I am statements out. We don't want to write them in a negative tone. I am no longer going to be late for work, right? So if we're going back to that alarm clock analogy, we want to say, I am the person who arrives, on time for work. I arrive on time for work. You get my point. Okay. So we want to take out, and you have to have like your like private investigator eyes on. You have to like look at your statements, because those negatives can be in there very easily, especially when we tend to speak to ourselves in negative narration. So look at your statements. They want to be positive, affirming, and they want to be short and concise as best as you can, right? Find something that works for you. I love those suggestions, Kellyanne.
Exactly. And that's so right, Kim. Like, I've heard people say, um, affirmations around money, like I am debt free.
Yes.
Don't use the words that you don't want in
Yes.
your affirmation. Use only, as Kim said, use only positive words in your affirmation.
Well,
And it
because
has to,
debt is a negative word, right? Like
right,
debt is negative in its
exactly.
tone for
That's not what you want. Don't tell your subconscious mind. Don't use that with your subconscious mind.
sure.
So once, and you don't have to start with one affirmation. Start
Mhm.
with one limiting belief or one I am statement right now for you that doesn't feel good, and work on changing that. I encourage you, put that statement everywhere.
Mhm.
Put it on your phone, write it on your mirror, put it on a sticky note on your computer, put it inside your fridge, like everywhere that you can see it and repeat it, because you cannot repeat it enough. As I said, that's how these thoughts and these beliefs got there, is they got into your subconscious mind through constant repetition. The way to change them is through constant repetition. Write them out. You know what? Spend 30 minutes writing out that affirmation. You want your subconscious you want it to be absorbed into your subconscious. You might think that sounds illogical, and it might feel illogical, but the way to reprogram your subconscious mind is actually to do the illogical.
Yeah. And have fun with it, right? Like Kellyanne said, write them down. Yes, we want to write them down, but have fun with it. Be creative with it. Use color, use pictures. That actually is going to take me to the next point that will really amp up your I am statements, because we know that I'm trying to remember all of the percentages, but like 55% of what it is that we believe comes from our physiology, the way we feel when we say something. So if you want to take your I am statement and go ahead and close your eyes, and then start to create a visual, a picture. Your subconscious mind stores things in pictures. So can you create a picture, a visual image, a visual imagery of that I am statement? What would that feel like? Let yourself feel it. What will you see in that picture? What will you hear in that picture? What will you feel in that picture? Let your whole self bring that to life. And then speak that and feel that every time you say that. That will amp up your I am statement, because if you're standing in the mirror and you're like, I am learning to appreciate this body, but oh my god, it's so ugly. Like you're not going to be there, right? It's like I am learning to appreciate my body. I am learning to appreciate my body, and then allowing yourself to visualize yourself in the most beautiful, healthy place that you want that to look for yourself. Can you imagine doing that on repeat? In the
Mm,
morning, at nighttime, when you're sitting at a red light, can you imagine the impact that that can have on how you then choose to live out your life, the actions that you take, the ways that you behave, the ways that you treat your body? Like, takes it to a whole new level.
I know. I love that, Kim. It is so powerful. It truly is. But as Kim said, you have to attach that emotion to it. You have to get emotionally involved. And I was just reading last night, this kind of ties in with this, Psycho Cybernetics, which is an amazing book. This
Love
is, I
that
think,
book.
my third read of it.
Mhm.
But it was talking about, as Kim said, when you have an I am statement, rehearsing what that feels like in your life, not only feeling the feelings, but seeing yourself in a situation where that is coming true for you. That your subconscious mind does not know the difference between reality and fantasy.
Mhm.
So use your imagination to get there in your mind. You have to get there in your mind first before you can actually get there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So this is just, as you can tell, Kim and I are both so passionate about um, about this topic, and I think probably because Kim, I'm speaking for you here, and I think we both have done so much work
Mhm.
on this topic, and it really is. If you want permanent and profound changes in your life, your self image, your I am statements, your opinion of yourself is the first thing you have to change.
Mhm.
Nothing else will give you the results, the transformation that changing your self image and your I am and your opinion of yourself. Nothing else will give you the results that this
Mhm.
will give you.
I love that. So think about that, everyone, as we start to wrap this up. And thank you all for being here. And thank you for all of your comments. We read them and then we're talking, so we'll come back to them. But really think about that. Like, I am. So if you visualize this next version, and we actually did an episode last week on your higher self and how to tap into your inner mentor and your higher self. But if you think about that, who is that version of yourself that you're creating? How does this person think? What are the I am statements that she or he are saying to themselves? Okay, I am the person who is no longer going to hide. I'm no longer the person who's going to sit silent. Okay, so if you know that that's your I am statement, today when you go out into the world, create that by taking those steps. Confidence, courage, all of those things, they're built by using the muscle. Okay, so we've got the narration happening, you're speaking it into your mind, you're choosing what it is that you want to create and desire for yourself. And then you're creating that physiology. And then you go out and you start to do the thing. Do the damn thing, everyone. Do the damn thing, right?
I love that, Kim. I love that. Well, this has been a great conversation. And yeah, we could probably talk for hours on this.
I think so.
But we know we're limited to just this 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but Kim and I both share so much of this in our communities, in our social media. So if you want more of this kind of thing, then please follow along because really for both of us, this is probably the at the center of much of the work that we do with our clients.
Absolutely. So
So
yeah, if I'm new to you, I'll just quickly share. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Kim Basler underscore food freedom. I definitely do a lot of work with supporting women with healing their relationships with their bodies, healing their relationships with food, of course, the mindset, the self-worth, and helping them be their happiest and healthiest version of themselves with that confidence that is just allowing their true potential to ignite. And my website, you can go there and check out a little bit more about the work that I do, kimbasler.com. So that's a little bit about me.
and I don't have, I'm working on a website, but you can find me on Instagram at Appleton Kellyanne. And I work with mostly with reprogramming your subconscious mind, which is exactly what we're talking about. I work very deeply with women on self image and how changing that self image can transform your life. And so just disrupting those patterns that are keeping us stuck.
Totally.
So, love to connect with anybody who is interested in learning more about that work.
Amazing. All right. Keep supporting yourselves, keep encouraging each other. That's how we go further together, right? So today, look for opportunities to boost another woman up, boost another man up. Okay. We all need it. We all need it. Thanks, Kellyanne. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.